Hello and welcome to Tech Talk by Heliocentrics. I'm John.
And I'm James.
And we're back today to talk a bit more about Teams. Now, first of all, just wanted to say apologies for not doing one of these videos for a few weeks. We've been busy with some training for both in-house training and group training on Microsoft Copilot, amongst other things.
Yes, it's been a very busy few weeks, but we've had a couple of different cohorts going through Copilot training, and it's been really nice to see everyone get engaged with Copilot, finding ways that it's going to, help them and either save them time or give them opportunities to do things that they weren't able to do in the past.
What have you found has been the most enjoyable part of the training?
I think it is that moment where people realize that Copilot's going to do something for them, either that they couldn't do or it's going to save them a massive amount of time. That sort of aha moment with the light bulb goes off and they go, oh, this is brilliant. Those kind of moments are really enjoyable and rewarding.
Yeah, I think this is the 5th or 6th time we've done this training in the last year.
Yes, in a few different iterations, both sort of in-house with a team of people, virtual, and then our own hosted training sessions as well.
Yeah, but I find really challenging is every time there's something different to fit in there, more content. I think we've struggled this time trying to get to clear enough space in the day to fit in those extra new features that have come along in the last few months.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to fit it in is a bit of a challenge. But if Copilot training is something you are interested in, we are hosting our next Introduction to Copilot course in May. We'll put the link in the description for this video. Alternatively, if you're looking for something more bespoke or in-house, please just get in touch.
Yep, contact information is available. So also then, there's been a few advances that we noticed last week, just as we were doing some training for someone, that they've started rolling out more features to do with agent mode that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, so agent mode is something that's coming to Copilot, and before we really talk about agent mode, what we need to talk about first is Copilot Frontier. So for anybody that isn't aware, Frontier is Microsoft's sort of program for any new features that they're rolling out testing. So you can sign up to Frontier across various different aspects of Microsoft and you can get those new features before anybody else. So within Copilot at the moment, the main Frontier features are the new agent modes that are available in Word, PowerPoint and Excel. Now these are powered by the Anthropic Claude models, which have proven to be slightly better at these types of agentic work patterns. And they've been in Frontier for probably a couple of months now. We've sort of been playing around with them. And initially, they admittedly weren't great. But over the last few months, we've tried them out a few different times. And they've definitely got better and become more useful.
I mean, every time we go to use them, it seems to be they're more usable. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think we saw that at the training event this last week, that more people were using them.
Yeah.
And straight away they were seeing some improvements on what you can get out just from the standard outputs.
Yes, so Frontier will appear in a couple of different places and you'll be able to access these agents and agent mode from a couple of different places as well. So first one, if you are in your Copilot app or on the Copilot website, so that's m365copilot.com, if you have Frontier turned on, you will see that there is a Frontier item in your menu. If you hover over that, you'll see the options for Word, PowerPoint and Excel, and you can access the agents for those there, and you can start chatting with them like you would a normal Copilot chat for it to complete actions. The other one is actually inside those Office applications. Now, at the moment, is mostly available online, although I have seen it start to creep into the desktop apps for a couple of people, but predominantly you'll see it online. So if you go into this image on the right here is a screenshot from Excel and open Copilot in Excel online, you'll notice the little, I think it's a mixer icon. We were trying to figure out earlier. The little mixer icon opens the tools menu, and from there you can then select agent mode. It's important to note that for the agent mode, you do also need to have opted into Claude. So if you're interested in Frontier, you want to get early access to those types of features, and you're one of our clients, please let us know. We can turn on Copilot Frontier and talk about opting into the Claude models for you as well.
So just a reminder, so the Claude models is an alternative to OpenAI's models that Microsoft have been using for a while. They signed a deal with Claude towards the end of last year and have been slowly rolling it out. Now, because of GDPR, we in the UK and the EU have to choose to opt in to having this extra data processor. It's a one-time process that an administrator needs to do in the Copilot settings that affects everybody in the 365 setup. So do let us know if we can help you with that. Otherwise, I'm sure there'll be some information on our website soon on how you do that, or I'm sure Copilot can probably tell you how to do that if you administer your own 365.
Yes. So moving away from Copilot slightly, we are going to talk about a bit about ClaudeBot or OpenClaw, which you may have heard in the news recently. The latest name for it is OpenClaw. And John's actually been playing around with this a little bit himself over the last few days.
Yeah, so OpenClaw, which any of you haven't heard anything about it, is the new set of tools, I suppose, agentic tools that are freely available that you can connect in to do some very advanced agent work or AI work, I suppose. And it's mostly only being used by technical people at the moment, realistically, because there are a lot of risks to it and you have to be very careful in how you set it up. Now, I myself am testing it out in a completely separate environment from my actual computer on a separate user account, so it's very limited in what it has access to. But already within a few hours of getting it set up, I can interact with it through WhatsApp rather than another app on my phone. And I can get it doing some really interesting stuff. Now, when I've set up agents elsewhere, you kind of connect the agents up and then you have to train the agents on how you want them to work with the tools that you've given them, like Microsoft to do. But what I was really amazed with OpenClaw is just a few messages through WhatsApp, I was able to get it connected to my Microsoft To Do. And it didn't just connect to it, it actually understood what was in there and has been really great at actually adapting that to-do list, making some changes to it, and also putting our tasks in there and managing those tasks and giving them to me at an appropriate time of day. I've done a lot more with it, even managed to, for a client, build a simple game for their website just through WhatsApp on Friday evening. And what I'm really impressed by is how simple it is to get it up and going, how dangerous it is, or if you don't know what you're doing, on what damage you could do. But I do see this as a window into what is coming in the future and what we all have coming to make available to us. And I really am impressed and slightly humbled by what we're going to be doing in a few months' time when this technology becomes more widespread.
Yeah, I think the surge in OpenClaw's popularity and people using it has been a real sort of turning point and eye-opener for people who even are working in the AI space constantly. Putting OpenClaw in place and seeing what it's capable of has blown people away. There's stories of people who've set this up, given it very simple instructions. So for example, there was one that said they just asked it to book a table at a restaurant. And OpenClaw went off, it found the restaurant, it tried to book it on OpenTable and realized that the restaurant wasn't listed on OpenTable. Then from there, it actually taught itself various skills and found access keys to 11 Labs, which is an AI voice solution, and actually taught itself to make a phone call to the restaurant and booked a table for the person without really being given those sorts of instructions. So as John said, whilst that's incredibly impressive, it's also slightly scary in terms of what it is able to go off and do when it has this full access to your computer.
And I still think some of those things are slightly exaggerated on what it's done without any prompting or setup from humans. But yeah, what is coming in the future, all this stuff we're doing with agents as they stand at the moment, could quite possibly be redundant in the very near future.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all changes.
Yeah. So today we thought we'd take a break from talking too much about AI, although we've just been speaking about it there, and talk a bit about Microsoft Teams. Obviously, Teams came about over the last 5 years, and people have slowly moved from using Zoom to Teams. But there's a lot more involved in Teams than just standard video calling. A lot of our clients now use it for a lot more for instant messaging and for managing task lists and notes and other apps, and certainly, just not to cross back into AI for a moment, you can attach in AI agents. But there's a lot of fundamentals with Teams that I'm often finding myself talking to clients about, and I thought today would be a good opportunity to just go through our 10 top tips for Microsoft Teams.
Yes, so I'm just going to switch our screen over here to our demo tenant, and you should hopefully be able to see Microsoft Teams here now. So we're going to first talk about a few different settings and then some functionality as well. So I'm going to drive and John's going to talk you guys through it.
So the first setting we're going to look at is about Do Not Disturb. This is one of James's go-to settings. So first of all, with Do Not Disturb, I recommend you come into Settings, which is in that ... menu at the top, and then down the side you go into Privacy. Now in there you've got the option to set your status as Do Not Disturb when you're sharing your screen. If that's not on, I would recommend that you do have it on, because the last thing you want is messages popping up when you're trying to do a presentation. Now I don't do this, but you do quite often have this set up for managing priority contacts.
Yes, so I have a few priority contacts that I still want to get notifications for when I'm on Do Not Disturb. Obviously, use this with caution. As John said, you don't necessarily want messages popping up during meetings or when you're sharing your screen. However, we do have a couple of other settings that can help with that. But if you do find that you always want to receive notifications from people, regardless of your status, you just click that Manage Priority Contacts button, and then you can add all of the contacts just simply by typing in their name and then selecting them from the list.
So what would happen here, just to make that clear, is if you put people in this list, you will still get notifications from them, even when you're set to Do Not Disturb. Okay. The next setting is my favorite setting that I definitely recommend everybody switches on, which is in Notifications and Activity. And you will see under Display, you have this option to show message and content previews. You want this turned off. So when you have it on there, you get the test notification through. And then it just says the message preview is hidden. So you'll see that the person has sent you a message, but you will not see what that message reads, which, if you're in any sort of job where you receive Teams messages that are confidential, or that you do presentations potentially for people sometimes, or multiple people look at your computer screen, then having notifications set so they do not preview just saves that any embarrassment or any breaches of data security or confidentiality. So well worth turning that one on. The next one I've got is about read notifications. So if James goes up to settings, and if you don't know where a setting is, you can just go to find and search for it. And we're going to search for read receipts. Now, the more I've had clients having access to me on Teams and other members of the team, sometimes I will see a message, but if I'm in a meeting or on a call, I don't want them to necessarily know that I've read the message straight away, because I might need time to think about it. And quite often if people see that you've read it, they're expecting a response straight away. So I recommend turning off read receipts, and that way it will just show the other person will show that it's been delivered, but they won't know whether you've read it or not. Okay, the next one is about the default open. Back to settings. So when you open files on Microsoft Teams, it quite often will open them on the web, or you can actually force it to open on the desktop applications. Now, this currently is the web version of Microsoft Teams, so we only have the option of opening Word and PowerPoint and Excel files in either Teams or the browser. But were you to do this inside the desktop app, you would also have the option for desktop, and I'd recommend you pick your favorite interface there. And rather than what a lot of people do, which is open it in Teams or the web, and then choose to open it on the actual desktop app afterwards.
Yeah, I personally like having it open in the desktop app by default, because if you do that, you can obviously still be looking at the file whilst you can message the person back with any questions. Whereas if it opens in Teams, inside Teams, which I think is the default, it can be quite annoying because it opens up and then you go, oh, I need to ask a question. You have to close it, send the question, reopen the file. So yeah, I recommend setting it to either browser or desktop as the default for that one.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about how you organize your chats. Now, as we all end up with more and more chats and more people we speak to on Teams, both internally and externally, it can be good to try and group some of those people together so you can find them easily. Now, what James is going to show you here is how he's going to select a contact. These are all fake contacts. And you can go, right, if you click on the ... menu, you can go to Move To, and then you can choose an existing section. So favorites is a default everybody gets, or you can create a new section. It looks like you can put an icon to the section as well, which I think is new.
Let's set that up. There we go.
There you go. And then you can move person there. Once you've got a section set up, you can just click and drag, I believe, the people into there. There we go. And it just puts them into that section, or it does on mine anyway. But it's a great way of just managing those different contacts you've got in place to make life easier. So you've got those contacts. Sometimes you don't want to send a message to somebody if they're offline, but you do want to manage to send a message when they've come online. And there's a really clever feature built in where you can schedule a message by putting a message in, and then you right click on the send button, and you can then set a date and time to send it. Now, we use this quite often if someone's on holiday, to schedule messages to come, not for the moment they get back, give them a little, give them time to at least read their emails and feel like they haven't got much to do. Then you can send them all the messages you like, listing everything that they've missed. What I would point out is you can only schedule it up to 1 week in advance, though you can edit the schedule and push it further off into the future. So you do that, and then it's scheduled. You don't have to do anything else. It will just send at that date and time. You can always come back and edit the message or the schedule and just update it. Or cancel the whole schedule at all and send it straight away. So next thing, while we're in a chat, there's also the option to send priority messages. So sometimes you're sending a Teams message and it's urgent and you really need to get someone's attention. Now, I do this sometimes if I'm on the phone and I really need an update from somebody in the team quickly and I can't go and speak to them. Then what I'll do is I'll do a Teams message, then I'll click on this little icon at the bottom, the little plus, and then there's set delivery options. In there, you have 3 options. Standard is obviously what we do every day. Important just marks it with an exclamation mark to make it clear to the person that it's something they need to deal with. But the new one, or the one that's been there a while actually, is urgent. And this will keep sending a notification every 2 minutes.
Every 2 minutes for 20 minutes.
Until they acknowledge the message. So it does mean that people are going to pick up on it much quicker. Use sparingly because you don't want someone to block you.
Good advice.
Next thing we're going to talk about is open notes. This is a nice new feature that I think they've rolled out to Teams. And if you're in a chat with somebody, you go to the top and you've got open notes. This is kind of like a little notebook next to each person you've got on Teams. So I use this quite often with my one-to-ones with the team, where as things crop up during the week, I will go into the Teams chat, dump something in there, and then when I have their one-to-ones, we can just look through the list of notes. Use it for other purposes as well, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, as you said about scheduled messages, it can also be good for noting down things that you need to talk about to someone if they're currently on annual leave, when they return, to keep them updated. It could also be a task list as well, or a variety of other things. So if you're not familiar with Microsoft Loop, we did do a webinar on that last week, but the notes page here is essentially a Microsoft Loop page. So you can add more interactive elements into it. So you use the / and then you can add a variety of things like checklists. So to do item 1, and then you can go through and sort of tick these things off. And there's a variety of other things as well that you can assign, tag people, create tables and all sorts in there.
And just to bear in mind, the notes tab is shared between all participants of that chat.
Yes.
So anything you put in there, everybody can see. Okay, so number 9 on our list is about adding apps and other things as tabs to the top of your chats. So Up at the top here next to Storyline, you've got the option to add a tab. If you click in there, you get a full list of different apps. These could be things like YouTube. They could be things like Trello. There is various other apps already built in. But if we choose YouTube, for example, and you click Add, they all have a similar pattern that you click on the app, choose Add, and then they'll have some sort of configuration. And if James goes to do a search, for example, for heliocentrics, and Winey pins one of our Christmas message. So it's pinned, and that will always appear. So if James goes off the chat, to a different chat and back or something, you'll find that you can always get back to what's there. YouTube, obviously limited uses, but we use Trello, for example, quite a lot when we're collaborating, and all sorts of other apps are available.
All sorts of things. You can have Power Apps. You can link also things like OneNote and Microsoft Loop and SharePoint lists and a whole variety of things. It can be
and just any website, really, when you want to set it up. Okay, so number 10 on our list of tips. Sometimes you are waiting to speak to somebody and you keep checking to see when they're coming online, a bit stalkerish, but it does happen that sometimes you're desperate to speak to them. If you right-click on a person, click on the ... menu, you can then choose Notify when available. This will bring you a notification telling you when that person comes online. When you're wanting to stop doing that, you can click on the message again and turn off that notification. So it's really easy. Turn it on and off when you actually want to be monitoring whether that person's online or not. Okay, so I think that's everything for us today. We're going to try and do some of these deep dives into other applications over the next few weeks, depending on what happens with Copilot and AI.
Yeah.
So for now, thank you very much, and thank you for listening to us.
Bye.
Bye.